I bet right now you have something in your closet that can change the life of a child. And so our motto of clothe a child, change a life really does make a difference.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Ramos Law Difference Makers podcast. And I, as your host, Dr. Jim Hoven, get a chance to meet cool people making a difference in people's lives every single day. I know you've heard me say that 100, actually more like 250 times before in the past, but it still holds true. And today is no different. Today, I get to have a conversation, and you're going to have that with me with Ms. Kathleen, I got to get that right, Kathleen Phillips, and she is with an incredible organization called Clothe to Kids, and that's Clothe to Kids of Denver. We're going to talk about what this organization is, how it works, how you might be able to get involved, and how it is truly making a difference in the lives of the kids who need it most in Denver, Colorado. So welcome to the show, Miss Kathleen. I love having you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And you know, it's crazy because we had to reschedule this, right? Mm-hmm. We were going to do this earlier because we had the incredible blessing. We don't do this very often. We had this incredible opportunity with the podcast team, so not only myself, but the person who makes all this happen, Gabe and Alexis, who sets all this up. We all went down to Clothe to Kids, and we met you and your team. And so, again, it was kind of a new thing for us, and I left there completely full. My soul was full, and I was completely inspired by the work that you do. So would you just take the first few moments, and so, by the way, I'm glad we got to do this because we had to make it up. Like we had a time set, and then it got crazy, and so we got rescheduled. So I've been looking forward to this ever since that day months ago. So would you just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Clothe to Kids?
Sure, and thank you so much for coming to the store. I think coming to the store and really seeing what we do really makes a huge difference.
100%. It
really does. So Clothe to Kids of Denver was founded in 2008 by 4 women who really wanted to make a difference in the Denver community. One of our founders had actually been in Tampa, Florida, and visited a Clothe to Kids of Denver, or Clothe to Kids in the Florida area. Came back so inspired that she and 3 of her friends decided, we should do this. We should do this in Denver. We know there's a need for clothing for our students in the community. But there's one thing to have that idea and be inspired, but there's another thing to actually go and implement that. And we're so fortunate to have these 4 women who decided they were really going to do it. And so on September 2nd, 2008, they opened the doors, Clothe to Kids of Denver. And it was a small shop at that time where students from Denver Public Schools could come and select a week's worth of clothing. And it's really important that we offer the clothing to the students so that they can select what's going to make them feel comfortable, confident, and prepared to thrive. So that's really our mission.
That's amazing. And I want to just kind of jump in and see if I could get a little more history, because I can't imagine, it's one thing to go to Florida, see this thing, and then you come back and say you're going to do this, but there's a lot of steps in between, as you pointed out. Do you have the history of how did they get that first set of clothes? How did they find a place to operate? Did someone donate? Was there did it operate out of a church? How did they get the word out to the school kids at the very, very beginning?
Yeah, great question. So one of the 4 women was a social worker. And so when our founder, Gail, came back and she said, do you think there's really a need in the Denver area? The social worker said, yes, look at the trunk of my car. I have clothes here that I've been collecting and giving to some students that she was serving in her day-to-day job. And so with that, they started clothing drives, and I believe it was in someone's living room and dining room where they were planning the whole organization and then collecting clothes, sorting the clothes, because you really need a variety if you're going to offer students the ability to select their clothes. And so, I think it took, just under a year to really gather up all of the clothes and sign the lease and, opening a business. I mean, it is a nonprofit, but it is a business. And thankfully we had expertise, the 4 founders, obviously in social work, also in marketing and accounting, and then the original founder who was a school volunteer and saw that need in the schools that she was serving as well.
What an incredible story. And the reason I wanted to get that out there, because there is a gap of time from when that started till now, and the sophistication, again, is such an advantage for us to have seen it, because I saw with my own eyes, you're going into a retail store, things that are super cool and trendy and awesome in different racks and all these things, a lot of new clothes, a lot of brand new clothes, and we'll get into all that. And I could only imagine how it went from this almost like a soup kitchen feel to now, like these kids coming in. And you mentioned this to us when we were visiting you. You want them to feel like they're shopping at a real department store, that they're picking things out.
Yeah.
And so now I think it's important for us to hear how you got involved, so we know kind of what the thing is, because your story is really cool, and what you did, the changes you made in your life to make this thing happen, and such a cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So my prior experience was in the human resources realm, and over the last couple of years, human resources, at least at my company, also encompassed community engagement. And so we were often looking for nonprofits that we could partner with, so we could do a coat drive or a shoe drive. And coincidentally, my son's school was hosting a coat drive. So I see this come through on, the weekly announcements. And I send this email over to a woman on my team, and I said, hey, this kind of looks cool. What do you think? And she called them up, and Val Lunka and Lisa Maloney, two of our long-standing and amazing employees, said, why don't you come down and check it out? And so we did, and we were like, this place is amazing. So not only from a corporate standpoint, where we immediately did a shoe drive, but I said, I want to be a part of this in a more meaningful and tangible way. And so about a month or so later, I started volunteering. This was in late 2020 when a lot of the volunteers really were not coming back to the store. You can imagine this is pre-vaccine. COVID, we were minimizing the number of people that were in the store. We were wearing masks, all the things we all did during COVID. And I just fell in love with being there. And I would come home and tell my husband, like, this is the best 3 hours of my week. And he said, you do have a real job and you need to go back to it. And I said, I know. But I would volunteer as frequently as I could and just truly fell in love with the place. And we continued on, with my work contributions. We did like a fitness challenge and had people donate shoes for points for the fitness challenge. And Clothe to Kids of Denver was the beneficiary. And so that kind of progressed, and my company ended up merging with another company. Our corporate headquarters were moved to Texas, and just with my life, family, it wasn't the right time to make a move. And I was so fortunate that Clothe to Kids of Denver had this leadership opportunity available. The prior executive director had been the development director, and she wore both hats for about 5 years and said, I really like just the development piece. And I said, well, I don't know anything about nonprofits, but I know about program management, I know about budgets, love people management, and I'd love to learn the nonprofit sector. And so I've been there just over 18 months now. As the executive director? As the executive director, yes.
Well, you are doing a great job. I'm telling you, when you see something, and for those of you that are watching or listening, there are places that you go that you connect to for whatever reasons. And there was an energy there for me, and I can't speak for anybody else, but I felt the spirit of the place. And that's really cool, because you're going around and you're showing us and giving us where the different sizes are and the different styles and all this kind of thing. And you actually took us into kind of the back room, where things get dropped off and how they get sorted, and the incredible volunteers that are helping in that world. And there was just a sense of caring and of love and of appreciation and this desire to help, and pride in what is being done there.
Yes.
Is there something that on the culture side, so this is going to be a little bit different kind of question, is there something on the culture side that drives the way that feels? Is it the mission? Is it the purpose? Or do you guys really pick people who have this to volunteer because it's palpable?
Yeah, I would say I think it's all. I think all of us can understand if you feel othered, and if you're at school and you don't feel like you have the right clothes or you don't feel comfortable. All of us have been in that environment. So I think the mission is really tangible to people, because I think people, it's easy to say, like, we want kids to feel good. We want them to be confident and prepared to thrive in school. So that part's easy. So I think the mission is pretty easy to get behind. But I'll tell you, as a volunteer, and last year we had 9,500 hours. So that's, 4.5 plus full-time employees equivalent to our volunteer hours. And so what makes people keep coming back for free? And I really think it is the culture of the employees that are there. We have very, very long-term, long-tenured employees who've been around 16 years. And I think our average tenure is over 8 years. And so to say something like that is really impressive. I know as a volunteer, I wanted to come back. They knew my name. I would always come and feel like I was making a difference. Sometimes, when you've done other volunteer gigs, you feel like you're almost a burden on the organization, like, oh gosh, they have to find something for me to do. No, there's always something to do. I always joke about also, you get to do what you want to do. So I didn't really like sorting. I didn't really like deciding, okay, is this appropriate or not? That's just not my thing, but I'll hang, I'll sort, I'll organize, I'll stock the store, all of those things. And so we have some volunteers, they only like to do shoes. That's their volunteer. We have other people who like to just do the sorting. And so there's room for you there. And I think the employees make you want to come back. They greet you, they welcome you, and you feel like you're making a difference every day you're there.
So good. I want to focus now for a minute on the need and the reason. Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit about the purpose, and that's what you guys do. That's your purpose for doing what you do. Let's talk about the need. And if we put a geographical boundary on it, from what I understand, these are kids, and you can help me out, right? I think it's from like 2 or 3 or something.
Yeah, age 3, when they start school and preschool.
Yep, up to 21 as long as they're working towards a GED
exactly
or
right.
something.
Yep.
And so with that being kind of such a wide range, they must live in Denver, in the Denver counties, 12 counties or something?
11 county metro
11
area.
counties.
Exactly right.
And then they have to have need. Like, this isn't where someone who wants to be hipster trendy, whose parents make a bunch of money, come in to get something. There's a qualification process. But how big is the need, and why is the need so important? You alluded to it just a little bit when you talked about kids in school, but I want to bring that story out a little.
Absolutely. So we previously required referrals, and that could be a referral from a school social worker or someone from a foster care agency. But you can imagine, or a free lunch letter. But you can imagine that during COVID, it was really hard to obtain that kind of paperwork. And so we just decided, if people are asking for it, if they are in need and asking for help, we want to be able to provide that assistance. And so really we just ask them, do you need the clothes? When they call and make the appointment, like, they call and they say they're in need, and we respect that. We do know that there are so many Denver area students, plus or minus 250,000 students, that would qualify for free lunch. Obviously, free lunch, Colorado provides free lunch now, but would qualify for it. So we know if just that number, last year we served 13,950, just a teeny tiny
14,000 people.
14,000 people, which, we're so proud to serve that many students and be able to offer them really quality clothes. At the same time, we balance that with the fact that there's a huge need out there, and we want to do everything we can to meet that need. But at the same time, we're not really ringing bells at the same time, because we know they're coming because they need something from us. And you talked about hipsters. Thrifting is a hobby of a lot of people. And if you've been to a thrift store lately, it's pretty expensive to go. So a pair of jeans that might be $17 or $20 at a thrift store might be great for someone who can afford it. But if you're looking for a wardrobe, that's a significant expense on people.
Yes.
And so for us to be able to provide that week's worth of clothes, and that's really key for us, a week's worth of clothing. We've heard stories where a student may only have one outfit, and they go to school one day and have to skip the next because they're washing that outfit. So we feel like if we can provide that week's worth of clothing, that they will be able, at least clothing won't be the barrier for them to go to school.
Go to school, be with their friends, do their thing.
Exactly right. And listen, receive meals. I mean, there's so much about the school environment that's so beneficial for the students. And so we want to be kind of that tiny part of it. We don't do a lot of things other than the wardrobes. Occasionally we'll do backpacks when kids go to back to school. But in general, we're really mission focused on that 21-piece wardrobe. And it's 5 new underwear, 5 new socks. The rest can be either new or gently used. You alluded to the new and used clothing. And it's 5 tops, 4 bottoms, shoes, coat, and a bra.
Which is so fantastic. And if you think about it, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been in elementary, junior high, or high school, many, many years. But I remember worrying, am I wearing my Chuck Taylors and are my pants a little too short because I grew a little too much,
right,
and all these things. And I didn't come from a poor home, right? And so can you speak to what these kids have expressed or their parents have expressed on what it means to not have clothes? Because I imagine there could be bullying involved.
Yes.
I imagine there could be shaming or ridiculing because someone looks different or they're wearing the same stuff all the time. Like,
that's right.
Can you speak to that part a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the shaming, the bullying, also isolation. I mean, you might not want to engage with others because you're probably trying to just fade into the woodwork. You don't want to be othered. And so that ability to, wear a sweatshirt, a Nike sweatshirt or a Nugget sweatshirt or something that makes you feel like you're part of the community, I think that makes such a huge difference. And I think that's really important.
And the fact that it goes through the ages that it goes. There are ages where other kids don't care.
Yes.
But there are ages where kids definitely care. You start getting junior high and high school, like you just said, you mentioned 2 brand names, right? You talked about Nike. I talked about Chuck Taylor.
Yes.
You guys, it's not just like going to somewhere that has all used clothes and this kind of thing. Can you speak to how you get some of these cool brands? Because when I was there, I didn't see one Nike shirt. I saw a whole slate of boxes, almost like a pallet of Nike shirts. So can you just talk about the process of how you guys get all these really good clothes, top shelf, top quality clothes?
Absolutely. So you mentioned earlier a sorting process. So we do have a donation center where community members will come and bring their items that they've outgrown, they've never used, that kind of thing. And we have volunteers or staff that actually sort it. And I always joke, we don't want your grandpa's trousers. Like, we want really the students to feel comfortable, that the sweatpants, the shorts, the skirts that everyone people are wearing, we want them to have that experience. So we go through a pretty extensive sorting process. With that sorting process, we either say, yes, we're going to stock it in the store, or no, we're not. And if we don't, then we do one of 2 things with it. We either stock it in what we call our extras area, where the parents can shop for themselves afterwards. Doesn't count toward that 21-piece wardrobe, but they're shopping for themselves. And that also could contain bathing suits, swimsuits that wouldn't be part of that core wardrobe, or soccer cleats, or ski pants, all of those kinds of things that come in. So we have that extra area. If it doesn't go in the extras, then it goes in our discards area, where we then send it off to textile recyclers. So everything goes through this important sorting process. But what we found is that, and I think even from the beginning, our donations come in when they come in. So we actually don't really have a schedule. So what we like to do is have back stock on hand of new items that we can sprinkle in with the items that have been donated. And so what we do with that is really scour the internet, scour the thrift stores on bargain days, scour Walmart, Target, department stores when they're doing kind of that end of season clearance. And so with our inventory budget, we try to buy items at that very, bargain basement prices. And so then we can maintain the inventory. So to your point, when you walk in the store, you see a full line of inventory. And then when people are shopping, they aren't just choosing 5 shirts from 10, they're choosing 5 from 100, 150.
That's so crazy. Do you find that because you have this special purpose, that if you went to, let's say, a Target, and it's coming to the end of season change, do you guys get any leverage or buying power by then saying, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, we want to buy all this stuff, can you give us an even better deal? Like, are some of these corporate sponsors, if you will, are they sensitive to that and even try to make your dollars go further?
Yeah, great point. I would say it's more sporadic, but building relationships with the store managers is really the most effective way we found that. Whether or not it's Old Navy or Walmart or Target, we have I call them just personal shoppers that are actually going out there and looking for those bargain basement deals, and have been building relationships with those managers, and that's really been most effective. And then also, if you're buying all of their inventory, which they're generally really happy to get rid of, they might also say, hey, we have these other items in the back. Would you be interested in that? So that's been fantastic. We've also been able to really work with some online retailers that don't have a local storefront presence. And they'll say, hey, we're clearing out our warehouse. We'll give you these items for shipping only. And so we gladly take that, because that's an incredible way for us to kind of build that back stock and sprinkle in the new items with everything that comes in that's donated as well.
That is so cool. I'm going to share a story, and it has nothing to do with what you're doing directly, but it reminds me of what you're doing indirectly. I'm a big football fan, and I was watching the Super Bowl many, many years ago. And the question came up, because on Super Bowl Sunday, the whole day before the game, all they do is human story after human story after player story after team story. And the story comes on, and it gets you to thinking on, well, I never thought about that. So how when the Super Bowl ends, or the AFC Championship ends, or the NBA Championship ends, they're wearing their shirt right away.
Yeah.
That means they had to make 2 teams worth of shirts.
That's exactly right.
And so the question was asked, what happens to the other team's shirts? And then so they go through the whole thing, and they followed it to some foreign country. I think it was maybe Africa or something, where those kids were wearing shirts of the team that did not win,
right?
Because they wanted to make sure that something happened. They couldn't sell them, right? So they did something, and it just reminds me that there are so many unique ways and opportunities that all of us, I think, whether you're watching or listening, we could have an impact for an organization like yours if you're taking new stuff or gently used stuff to people. Because I don't know about you, but I was just talking to my wife the other day, and I said, we have a wonderful home, and we have a walk-in closet, and I'm like, it seems like my stuff's getting tight in the closet, and it's not because my stuff's bigger, it's because I got more stuff. And I'm thinking, man, I wonder if I could take some of this stuff out and do something with it and lighten that up. But there's probably so many ways that all of us, stores, conglomerates, and individuals, could figure out a way to help a organization like basically Clothe the Kids.
That's exactly right. We love when neighborhoods host kind of clothing drives, and people will say, hey, if it's the HOA, they're hosting a neighborhood drive. And so people are clearing out their closets and doing that. We have scouts who do projects like that. We have different sporting organizations who will do an Undie 500 or a Kicks for Kid drive. I mean, there's just so many ways to help. And again, I think the mission really resonates with people. And just so many people can go in their closet and pull 5 shirts that they have not worn and that are in good condition and donate those. And so I think it makes it very tangible to be able to give to Clothe the Kids of Denver.
And when someone gives, this is just a random question, but if someone gives, is that a tax write-off situation for them because it's gently used clothes versus if they come with a brand new stuff and say, look, there's tags on this and all the rest of that?
Absolutely, yes. We are a 501c3 organization, and we have tax donation receipts that we hand out whenever people come and do the donations. Absolutely.
See, it's a win-win for everybody.
It is. And people are really excited often, very often. People come and are so excited about giving. And then, we always offer a tour because, again, you experienced it, Gabe, Alexis, being there and really seeing what happens really makes a huge difference.
It does. And I can only imagine, because the store's been open long enough now, that if I were a recipient of this program, and let's say I'm 18 and my parents lose their job and we find ourselves homeless, or we're living in a shelter, or we're living with family or friends, and I find myself needing this. I go through the process. Let's say I'm 15. Okay. Because between 15 and 17, I might grow several inches.
Yes.
The way I understand the program, I can come in every 3 months or something, right?
Every 4 months.
4 months.
Exactly right.
Because that way, if I outgrow something, then I can go through that process. I can only imagine how I would feel if it were me, of being so grateful. So then you end up going and doing something, and whether you go to, get a great job or go to a trade school or go to college, whatever happens, that I would now be connected to that organization if it gave me a good lifting or a launching point, that I would want to be part of that in some way, donating or volunteering. Is that something that you guys have seen?
Yes. In fact, when I first started the job, I was trying to read as much as I could about the organization. And one of the lines in our grant application said, people who have used our services previously often come back and donate. I'm like, is that really true? It is absolutely
1,000% true.
1,000% true. I'll give you one example. Last summer, there was a man who pulled up his pickup truck and just pulled it, so he could unload a completely full pickup truck. So of course we grab the carts and we go out to help him and just, how'd you hear about us? That kind of thing. He said he was newly married. He had 3 young children in a 1-bedroom apartment and they had nothing. And he came and utilized our services. And I think he said just a couple times. And it made such a positive impact on him. And then he said, now I have this amazing job. I'm a manager. I'm able to give my children all of this. And he said, and this is their extra stuff. And we're so happy to give back. And it was just, it was so touching. The other story I'll mention is I was a volunteer at the time. And a woman was bringing her foster children. So she was in the front of the store helping them select clothes. Then she came around the back and said she was so grateful and handed us some cash. And she said, I just want you to take this.
My goodness.
And it was unbelievable. I'm like, first of all, you're giving so much of yourself to be a foster parent. And then to access these resources for these children, and then to be able to then just come and give cash because she was so grateful. So the stories abound. We love hearing them from the volunteers, from the employees, and then of course from the people who come back.
And are you guys really connected into resources that refer you? Because you don't do a big advertising push, right? We don't see commercials. I don't know how much social media you guys do or any of that kind of thing. Is it places like at schools where the faculty, the teachers know if they see little Susie or little Tommy coming in the same clothes every day, people, like you say, they kind of want to blend in. And so they might not say anything and the parents might not say anything. Do they then act as advocates and somehow try to talk to those kids as if they're, 4, 5, 6, talk to their parents, say, hey, I noticed that Susie and Tommy are coming in with the same clothes. If you guys need help, here's the resource. Or how do people find out about you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the the teachers might recognize a student in need. They typically go to the school social worker who we're more connected with. And the school social worker will then say, okay, Clothe to Kids of Denver, let's see if we can either get you an appointment or something we started during the pandemic is what we call our curbside wardrobes. And so obviously when the store was closed down, students still needed clothes. And so we developed our curbside where we take that 21-piece wardrobe that we mentioned, and then we curate that same 21-piece. So they're not actually picking them out, but instead they're telling us what size they are. Mm-hmm. Do they like pink? Do they like blue? Do they like unicorns? Do they like the nuggets? Whatever they like. And so our volunteers or staff will curate that wardrobe, and then we can deliver it to the schools or have the school social worker pick that up. So last year was about 8% of the number of wardrobes. So we've continued it post-pandemic. And again, our preference is to have the students come and shop. But at the end of the day, we want them to have clothes for school.
Yes. And what do you guys do in the summertime? So school's over, it's May or whatever, and now that school starts in August. Do you kind of just reassemble and try to stack up for school time, and you're not giving out wardrobes during that time, or do you still stay open and give out clothes?
We stay open throughout the year because people can come every 4 months. In fact, I heard someone calling in today trying to make a in advance back to school appointment because they're so ready. They know that we fill up. We don't accept walk-ins. We really want people to go through the appointment process so we can make sure that the clothes are in the store, that we're fully stocked, and that we have the volunteers and staff. But we are open all year round. July, August, September, and in fact, our busiest months have been in October.
Oh, why is October? Because of change of seasons?
I think it's change of seasons, exactly right. So we hit almost 1,600 students. We're averaging about 1,200 a month, but in October, we were just under 1,600 students.
Wow. That's so impressive. How many, let me rephrase the question. Do you ever run really, really low on stock where, so this October when you're serving 1,600 students, did you get a little nervous? Like, oh man, our racks are getting a little bit thin.
I started the October before and I was unbelievably nervous because again, we don't know when the donations will come in. And it was just a beautiful fall. And I think people were out doing fun things, not cleaning out their closet. As soon as that cold snap happened, all of a sudden our donations really picked up. So we do know that there are slower times, but we are really trying to build up our backstock of inventory so that we can then just bring in the inventory either from donations or from items that we purchased, at that bargain basement clearance price.
And that makes total sense to me. When you have people that are donating stuff, is it mostly local folks, or have you guys gotten the word out now that, like, someone listening to this show or watching it, they might say, well, I live in North Carolina and I don't know that there's Clothe to Kids in North Carolina. And based on the connection that they've made with you today, they would want to send it to you. Do you take clothes that are shipped from somewhere else like that too? And is that something people do?
We do. And we also have kind of an Amazon wish list. So sometimes people will purchase items from the Amazon wish list from all over the country. So yes.
That's so good. Yeah. And what other organizations do you guys kind of team up with? I imagine if it's like most of the philanthropic world that I'm aware of, you see like visions. Like, let's say it's all about taking care of kids. So you have one group making sure they're fed, one group making sure they have a roof over their head, and you guys making sure that you have clothes. Are there groups like that where you're really tied to, whether it's churches or other philanthropic groups, that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So I would say probably one of the partners we work with extensively is called We Cycle, and they really serve families from 0 to 3. So it's that perfect sweet spot where if they get clothing that's larger than size 3, then they donate to us. And then if we get it kind of in that infant area, that we donate to them. So that's been a huge partnership with them.
What about, this is interesting to me, so many kids want to play sports. Mm-hmm. And I know that we have a lack of funding at the schools right now, so that schools are dropping sports programs. But for those that are playing, I know, I haven't had kids in high school for a long time, but hearing the cost of kids, whether to play Little League or high school sports, I mean, it's a lot of money. And while you guys won't carry shoulder pads and hockey pads and shin pads and, for whatever sport, I could imagine that there could be a really good need for, whether, like you mentioned, cleats earlier, and that might come in your optional area, or certain kinds of socks or practice jerseys. Is that something that you guys are focused on, or not really so much, because that's not the day-to-day 5 outfit thing?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think, in fact, yesterday a woman was donating clothes, and she said, "Do you take shoes?" We said, "Yes." She said, "What kind?" And I said, "As long as they're in good quality." We always use the phrase, "Would you give it to a friend?" We think that's a good criterion to use.
Yes.
On whether or not it's suitable for donation. And she said, "What about cleats?" And we said, "Absolutely." So we last year collected cleats, shin pads, socks that came in, and donated them to a soccer team.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, in the Aurora Public Schools. And so we do those kinds of things. We've had lacrosse sticks, tennis rackets. So again, even bikes that come in. And again, it's, to your point, it's not our core mission, but we know there are families in need that really will utilize those items. So we want to be able to offer it in our extras area.
And if you had, first of all, let me ask, are you supported by like grants and all that kind of thing? How do you guys get your money? Obviously you get donations, but like you said, you'll go to some sort of vendor, either online or a brick and mortar, and you'll say, hey, it's bargain basement time. How much can we leverage this? How do you guys get funded?
Yeah, great question. So we have a fantastic grant writer, and so we apply for a number of different grants from family foundations or other foundations, and we don't receive any governmental money, but it's all through private foundations. Then we also have 2 main fundraising events. One is a luncheon that we hold every spring, and then our primary gala is called the Blue Jean Bash. You can imagine that.
Oh, sounds good to me.
Fits our theme for sure, and that's held in September of every year.
And when you go have the Blue Jean Bash, is that all potential donors, or is that also, do you have some of the kids there that have experienced what this means? Because I can imagine, like I was at the one of these really big, maybe I won't mention the name, but anyway.
Gala.
So, yeah, it was at a big gala. Yeah. We'll leave it at that. And so they do the whole thing where they do silent auction, they do regular auction, they do paddle raises, and they're raising, $650,000 in the span of 2 hours or something, 3 hours. And one of the things that really was empowering and raises your passion level to give money is you hear from these folks that have been both impacted by the reason for the cause and then helped through the cause, right? And so it just is curious to me, like when you have your Blue Jean Bash gala, if you have kids there that could tell that story, because I can't get past what it would be like for me if I were in that position and those stories being recorded and being heard. I just think it's so powerful.
Yeah. Last year at our Blue Jean Bash, we debuted our new video, which showed scenes from the store and also shoppers. And then we also included quotes. So we do a survey to all the shoppers after they're done with the store and ask them, does your child feel more confident afterwards? And what was your experience? And what did this mean to you? And so we shared the stories through the visual impact of the student shopping and then the words of the parents expressing their gratitude for the organization.
That's beautiful. What's the vision for the organization from here? So I'm going to call it, I'm rounding up 14,000 people helped. Do you guys have a vision where the goal is to say, hey, we want to end up doing 15,000, 20,000, or is it just we're going to serve as many as we can with all that we got?
I think that's really the best way to say it. I mean, I talk about it from a supply and demand standpoint.
Yes.
We want to make sure we have the supply so that, again, we can offer that choice selection. And because so much of what we offer is donated, it's really what we can serve, the number of people we can serve is predicated on what we can do as a supply. So we really need to grow that in tandem.
Yes.
But yes, we're trying to serve as many as we can. Part of the reason we were able to serve more and more students is we recently implemented a new system that sends text reminders. So all of us live by text reminders.
Yes,
we absolutely do. And so the ability for people to say, oh, wait, I did schedule that appointment, it's tomorrow, has dropped our no-show rate considerably. So we have been able to serve more and more in that capacity. And yes, we're just looking to find those efficiencies. You've been in our space. We're trying to optimize that space to the best we can so that we can serve more and more.
Well, this has been an amazing journey for me to talk with you again. It rekindles all those feelings that I had when we were in the shop with you, a few months ago. And if I were to ask you one last question, it would be this. Is there anything that you would want to tell the audience that would basically help them understand how important their participation is, whether it's through volunteer efforts, donations of clothes, money, like what it really means, anything that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, I would say if any of your listeners are looking for a place to donate their used clothes, people are often cleaning out their closets, trying to, move things out. If you're looking for an alternative, I would consider Clothe to Kids. I mean, I think we make it very easy for people to drop off. We're open Tuesday through Saturday. We're on Colorado Boulevard, just north of Hamden. And I would say, and then if you're looking for a place to get involved, and I shared my story a little bit, it's an amazing place to share your talents, whatever they may be. And again, and to feel like not only are you helping the community in which you live, but you also feel like you're getting something out of it. And I think that's the last point I would mention is in our new video, which I mentioned we debuted at the Blue Jean Bash. It's on our website, clothetokidsdenver.org. We talk about the community of Clothe to Kids. And I think, especially post-pandemic, that feeling of community is so important. And I think we are all looking for that. And I think Clothe to Kids of Denver provides that kind of community as you're supporting your own community. So beautiful. And if people wanted to get involved, what's the best way for them to reach you directly or Clothe to Kids? How would they connect with you? Yeah, we have a website, closetokidsdenver.org, and an email address, info@closetokidsdenver.org. Again, my name is Kathleen Phillips. You can always email me, Kathleen@closetokidsdenver.org. Kathleen, this was amazing. Thank you so really much for appreciate the work that you're doing, the change in your life that you made to keep this great organization alive, growing, and thriving. And it is thriving. It is thriving. Just know you have a friend in Ramos Law, and we always want to be able to host you here, do anything we can to support you, and move forward with you as a group. Thank you for allowing us to share the story today. Thank
So
you so
good,
much.
So good. Wasn't that good? I hope that you'll do something to help this group, whether it's just send them prayers or, wish them well, or if you can, donate money, donate clothes, donate your time. So something that makes a difference in their world will help them make a difference in the world of a child. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that if you have ideas that you'd like to see or hear about, that you'd send them to me. You can reach me, jim@ramoslaw.com, and we will see what we can do to get someone on the show that will help give you some cool stuff. And in the meantime, until we see you next time or until you listen next time, remember to get out there and keep making a difference.